Hello, hello, hello. Good morning. And good morning, Alyssa. Double good morning, because I see you both. Yes, good morning. And good morning, Daniela. And good morning, Jayla. And good morning, Noel. All right. Oh, I even get a wave. That's awesome. That's like so human. Good morning. I'm doing this I'm doing this in a different way this time. Good morning, Vivian. Good morning, Charlie. Good morning, Julian. Good morning, Lakshmi. Good morning, Farouk. Good morning, Soad. Okay, I did this differently this time, but I'm going back to the chat now. That was me saying good morning to physical people. Now, yes, good morning, Alyssa. Good morning, Soad. Good morning, Charlie. Good morning, Noel. Good morning, Farouk. Good morning, Vivian. Good morning, Lakshmi. Okay, wow. Excellent. Good to see you all. Okay, sorry I got here a little bit late and a little bit raggedy. Okay, let's just, we are actually going to have a discussion today. I hope we're going to try. I mean, we always do, but a little bit more than usual, because I think we can go straight finally to homework 3. I think we can go straight to homework 3, which is, again, a little bit of it's not as numerical, it's a little bit philosophical. It has more of a point than it might seem. Hopefully I know it's been a long time since you did it. Hopefully maybe you have your answers in front of you, or if you can take out or like have ready with you what you did on it, that would help, because we're going to try to have a little bit, as I say, of a discussion. And I'm going to get mine out in a second, but yeah. Okay. Okay. Or actually, let me get mine out. Hold on a second. Sorry. Hold on. Well, actually, let me, okay, here's a bold thing. Is there anybody here who feels comfortable, just so we have context, so we can remind ourselves where we are? I mean, and nobody has to do this, but is there anybody here who feels comfortable just reading out loud the original fact pattern on the first page? Just the part where it says like you're on a train heading from, and you're somewhere between 59th Street and 14th Street. Is there anybody who would feel comfortable reading that out loud and obviously for points and all that? Can I get any volunteer at all to read that out loud, just so that we're all on the same page? Is there anybody? Bueller? Is that no? Going once, going twice. Anybody want to just read that paragraph out loud? It's not meant to be a test or anything. It's just to get the ball rolling and keep us all as human beings.
I can read it.
Awesome. Thank you, Julian. Awesome. Okay, go for it. Thank you.
So you want me to read like the part that says the train itself?
Yeah, exactly. Please.
It is late on an exhausting school night. You wake up to find yourself sitting in the car of a sleek and modern express subway train. The train signs indicate that it is southbound, that it is a southbound train. Its intended destination is downtown 14th Street. You are no longer at John Jay College's uptown address. You are somewhere between 59th Street and 14th Street. Inside the train, everything looks symmetric, the same in a certain way. That is, seats face north, south, east, and west. Windows are arranged identically on all walls. Neither the floor nor the ceiling is marked by any distinguishing features. You neither feel nor hear anything. No bumps, no lurches, no turns. None of your senses experience anything to indicate instability nor change. You do recognize that the train design seems quite technologically up to date. So the question is, are you moving?
Awesome. That was perfect. That was exactly what I wanted. I totally appreciate it. And I'm even going to try to pull it up so that we're looking at it. All right. That's great. Thank you, Julian. And that's points somehow. All right. So that is the scenario, right? And I know, like, normally with a physics problem, we start with a diagram and some sort of fact pattern, right? Like a description of events, and usually there's numbers or whatever. Here, there aren't numbers so much. But other than that, it's a fact pattern, just like a normal physics problem. This is a particular type of physics problem, actually known as a Gedanken experiment. I might write that down in a minute. Gedanken means thought in German. This is a Gedanken experiment, i.e. a thought experiment, i.e. this is a kind of lab, only it's a mental lab. It's a hypothetical. It is, of course, it's a hypothetical, but many physicists became famous for running experiments in their mind and then watching the conclusions unfold and coming to conclusions about the world by watching those conclusions unfold. And these experiments sort of work. The idea is that well, okay, so I guess that's a whole other topic, but the idea is that we trust our intuitions. If we run a certain movie in our mind, some thought experiments are simple and straightforward enough that once we present them and run them, even if we don't have the technology to do them or whatever, we sort of feel like they are reproducible and that everybody else will come to the same conclusions that we do if they watch the same films in their minds. And the only difference is that we just thought of coming up with that film, and they didn't, so that it somehow or other, these thought experiments, even though we can all see what conclusions arise at the end of the mental movies, they're just long enough or just original enough or just elaborate enough that the conclusions we see at the end of the movie, we wouldn't have thought of if we hadn't thought of the thought experiment. Einstein was particularly famous for running Gedanken experiments, like experiments in his mind. In fact, I think he coined the phrase Gedanken experiment, but Galileo did the same thing, and even Newton. But anyway, all right, so Julian read that perfectly. That was great. I'm going to try to also pull it up. So I'm going to just start by asking, based on what Julian just read, and everybody did this at home, I mean, I know things then change later in the experiment. Can I just get a vote, a show of hands in the room, like based on that in your initial, like the very first question of the sheet before other things happened was like, is the train moving? Or sorry, I mean, the very first question is, are you moving? Like, and there were choices, yes, no, or both, neither, whatever. So I just want to know, in this room right now, raise your, can we do this? I wish we could do a poll, but yeah, raise your hand in the room right now if you originally said, yeah, I am, if you voted yes for I am moving or the train is moving. I guess raise your electronic hand if you don't mind. If you said yes, I am moving to that scenario. Oh, no, oh yes, okay, one person, so it's literally one person. Oh, two people, okay, two people, or three. Oh, wait, three people. So Soad, Charlie, and Lakshmi. Or I shouldn't be mentioning names, I guess, but I hope that. All right, so three people said, yes, I am moving. Cool, okay. And again, I know people could have changed their mind since then, or they could have changed their mind in the sheet, but three people at least initially said yes to I am moving. Now, can I get, and put your hands down or your electronic hands? Can I get a show of hands now of who said, at least initially, at least to the part that Julian just read, who said no, not moving? Raise your hand. One, two. Wait, and I forgot, is Charlie voting twice? Or did Charlie, did you vote for the other? Did you put your hand out from the other one, or did you vote twice? Wait, oh, okay, cool. So two people. Okay, so we had three people for yes, two people for no. That is all right. Oh no, that's cool. No problem. Okay, so already, by the way, that's already a pretty legitimate like difference of opinion. I mean, it's three people for one, two people for the other. Now, raise your, what was the next option? I'm going to pull up in a second. The next option, I think, we'll see. Could someone tell you the next option was not enough information or both or something like that? What was the next option? Jayla, yeah, Jayla, what was it? Or you're raising your hand for the next option, Jayla? Oh, wait, so Jayla, which, okay, maybe for the next option. Okay, great. Okay. And could you just remind me, Jayla, what, I have to pull this up. I'm going crazy, but could you just remind me what was the next option? If you don't mind. All right, wait, I'm going to pause for a second because I'm speaking in the abstract here. This is stupid. Hang on one second. Oh yeah, and you had to do a diagram too. Sorry, I forgot about that. Oh, yes, no. Oh, so Jayla's raising it for both yes and no. Right. Okay. Is there anybody else besides Jayla? So option 1 was yes. Option 2 was no. Option 3 is both yes and no. Is there anybody else besides Jayla who raised their hand for both yes and no? Lakshmi. Okay. So we got 2 for yes and no, right? I know I'm being so scattered, but we have 3 for yes. We had 2 for no. We have 2 for both yes and no. Then the next option was neither yes nor no. Any votes for that? And that's Alyssa. That's 1, I think, right? Okay, so Alyssa's the only, going once, going twice for neither yes nor no. Alyssa's 1. Oh, you're not. You're just saying, oh, okay. So what are, okay, I'm sorry. So is there any vote at all for neither yes nor no? Nobody. All right, and the last option was not enough information. Anybody vote for not enough information? That's Noel. Okay, awesome. And is going once, going twice for not enough information? Noel is the only one. It's the only. Wait, does that cover everybody then? 3, 2, 1 and 1. 3, 2, 1 and 1. 5, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4. So some people didn't vote. Okay, here's a test. Raise your hand right now if you didn't vote for one of the options in the last 2 minutes. Raise your hand if you didn't vote for anything yet. How's that pop? Wait a second. I'm looking in the chat. Something. Okay, wait, Lakshmi. Oh, Lakshmi meant to put her hand up for both yes and no. Hold on. All right. I'm not trying to be obnoxious or boring. Well, I'm sure I am being both, but hang on. We've got 1, 2, 5, 7. We've got 9 people in the room, right? So somehow everybody's got to vote for something, right? There's no reward. There's no there's no right or wrong answers. There's no pain. There's no gain. There's no like commitment or anything like that. But I feel like if we're going to do this, everybody should commit to some position. Let me even put it a different way. This is not a test to see if you did your homework. Like, in fact, okay, I know one thing I am going to do. Here's one thing I'm going to do. I'm going to bring this up. This is not even a test to see if you've done your homework. That's not my point. My point is that this is a discussion, like that everybody, this is a discussion where everybody could and should be able to have like an opinion. So I'm even going to pull this up right now. Right, if I can. But I want to see I want to see everybody vote for something. In other words, even if you didn't do the homework or you don't remember or you don't have it with you, you can vote right now. Yes, is that it? Yes. This is the thing that Julian just read. Hopefully you can see. This is the thing that Julian just read, right? The options. And again, even if you didn't do the homework, hopefully you have it or know what I'm talking about or have it near you. So the choices for so the question is, are you moving? The choices are yes, no, both yes and no, neither yes nor no, not enough information to decide, right? Those are choices. So let me do this one more time quickly. Maybe I could, I'm sure there's a way I could do like an actual computer numerical poll, but I don't want to get that crazy. But let me see this one more time. Like the total number of votes should add up to 9 if we're having an actual discussion here, right? So one more time, even if you already did it, and I apologize, please tell me if you vote, at least at this moment, if you vote for yes, put electronic hands up, please. And like literally do the electronic hand thing, because then it actually moves your square to the side and then I can see it, blah, blah, blah. So oh, now, of course, I just lost. So if you're voting for yes, please put up your hand. I see one electronic hand. How's that possible? God, is this my problem? This is my problem, isn't it? I'm the one messing this up. I see so odd. Why is so odd the only one I see, even though a second ago we had, raise your hand if you're saying yes, you are moving. It's just so odd, going once, going twice. I thought it was 3 people a minute ago, but okay. There's, oh, let me look in the chat. Oh, some people disconnected. Okay, well, that's helpful. Thank you. All right, wait. So there should be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Well, I still think there were 9. All right, we got 1 vote for yes, and it's so what? Again, this is not personal. Like I'm not, but I'm just trying to account for everybody. All right, so so odd was the 1 yes. So put your hands down. So what? Raise your hand if you say no, not moving. Okay, we got Alyssa. We've got Alyssa. We've got Julian. We've got Vivian. Okay, and do me a favor, and I know this is weird, but try to do the hand thing, not the thumbs up thing, just because if you do the hand thing, it'll actually move your square it'll move your box like to the top, I think, for all of us, and then we can, and not the hand clapping thing, but the hand up thing, like the raise hand, if you don't mind, because then we'll see. So if you know how, so I see so it seems like we have 3 for no. Oh, okay. Oh, okay, fair enough. Thank you, Lakshmi. Okay, so we've got 1 for yes. We've got 3 for no. Am I correct? Right? Okay, 1 for yes, 3 for no. That's 4. Put your hands down now. Right? Okay. I think yeah. So okay. Cool. Now we're saying, and I think you're putting your hands down right now. We're saying raise your hand for both yes and no. Like raise your hand for both. And it looks like okay. It looks like that is. Why is this so? I can see why it's hard for you because it's totally hard for me. Okay, so it's Daniela, it's Jayla, it's Lakshmi. Oh, there's 4 people. Where's the 4? Why did that just say 4? But I only see 3. It's Daniela, Jayla, and Lakshmi. It's 3 people. So 3 people for both yes and no. Oh, 4, but it says 4, but I only see. So my computer, oh my God, this is so confusing. Why should this be so confusing? Why does my computer say 4, but I only see 3? How could that be? Oh, 3. Okay. I don't know what's going on. Oh, because you're putting your hands down. Okay, now raise your hand if you say neither yes nor no. Raise your hand if you say neither yes nor no. Going once, going twice. That's either that's nobody or it's Farouk. I can't tell if Farouk's hand is. Oh, Farouk's hand. Okay. Sorry. So it's nobody. So finally, raise your hand for not enough information. Newell, okay, that's 1. Okay, that is great because I think that finally added up to 9. I'm pretty sure. I think everybody was accounted for there, I'm going to assume. And can I point out before we go any further? I mean, I know this is like annoying and weird and confusing, but can I point out that is quite a range of responses? Like even though that was confusing and maybe things were changing around, just about every possible answer there was represented by at least 1 person, right? I mean, we had answers all across the board. And granted, it seemed like we had the most, I think we had the most answers, I think, for yes. But even that seemed to change around and every single answer was represented. So apparently this is not clear cut. Apparently this is not obvious. And I know the questions start to change a little bit later, more information gets into it. But even before we get to that, just this stage here where we're on the, and I think that, and you can ask questions if the scenario is not clear, but like here we are, we're on this train, like Julian read, we're on this train. There's, everything is pretty symmetric. There's no bumping, there's no lurching. It could be a dream, it could be reality. And by the way, let me point out, yes, obviously this is hypothetical. And in this hypothetical, like you don't even really know if you're dreaming or not. It's all a little bit mystical. But I hope, before we go any further, I hope everybody can identify that it's hypothetical, but it's not wildly unrealistic, right? Like subways in New York City, okay, they're pretty bumpy, they're pretty crazy. But occasionally, like at least the A train, once upon a time before COVID, had some smooth moments to it. Like, I mean, the A train, especially like when it goes, express from 59th to 125th, there are some moments where it's fairly smooth, and late at night, it can be fairly symmetric and fairly like not clear in its motion. But also, even if even if subways are a little bit rickety and a little bit bumpy, if anybody's ever been on a subway in Washington, D.C., or God forbid, or Tokyo, or I might add, just to spice up a little bit, if anybody's ever been on an airplane, or even frankly an elevator, I think you can all relate to the fact, I mean, I think, and we're going to find this out, but I think you've all been in scenarios that are somewhat similar to this one, where the motion that might or might not be going on is fairly well disguised, right? Like that's what I'm hoping, that this is not a huge stretch of the imagination, that you could be in a situation where it's not immediately clear whether you're moving or not. So this is what I want to ask. The people, I want to shut up really and hear from you guys. Anybody who said, yes, I am moving. Anybody at all, any one of you, could you give like your reason or your thought process of why you said yes? And that's anybody.
I said yes because the train is moving. Like, even though I might not be moving, like I'd probably be sitting down or something, like I'm still traveling from one place to another. So I said yes for moving.
Totally makes sense to me. I totally see that. Excellent point. Well said. Anybody? And then awesome. Lakshmi, are you raising your hand to also say? Okay, great. Go.
I just said both yes and no because, well, if the train, you can't really prove whether it's saying whether it's moving or not based on the information they gave. So I figure you kind of have to assume that it's both moving and not moving, and then solve for those two scenarios.
Oh, awesome. Okay, wait. And I totally wait. Say that say the last part again. That's interesting about solving for the two scenarios. Say that one more time, just the last part, if you don't mind.
Yeah, I just think that you can't really solve for one if they're saying like find the speed, but you're not moving or you are moving. Like you kind of have to solve for both, assuming one scenario that the train is moving and the other scenario that it's not moving.
Cool. Okay, got it. I like it. I like it. Anybody? Let me even just shift. Okay. Anybody else? Whatever anybody said, whether you said yes or no, could anybody add to this? Like, especially if you said no or you disagreed or you said something different from Lakshmi or from Sawad. Anybody who said something different? Why did you say something different? What was your thinking? Anybody? Like at least one person said no, I think, right? One person in the room.
Okay, I said no.
Go for it.
Okay, well, I said no because, like, for example, even if it is smooth, you can hear something like a buzz or something like that. So if you write that no noise, and then I was like, no, there has to be something. So wrong.
Totally makes sense to me. Like, and I'm not being polite here, people. So far, everything that everybody has said to me makes sense, really. Like, I'm not being polite. Like, in fact, honestly, with what everybody has said so far, with what Soad said, with what Daniela said, with what Lakshmi said, if they were the only ones speaking today, and they were the only ones that wrote something down, I could not object at all to what they're saying. Like, the only possible reason I have confusion in my mind is because I'm hearing more than one opinion, and each one sounds right to me when I hear it. Like, for real, I mean, obviously I've thought about this before. Obviously, in the end, I'm going somewhere with this, but I just want to clear, like, I couldn't find, if I wanted to, I couldn't find a mistake or an error in anything any one person has said so far. And yet we are coming to different conclusions, right? Like, and let me also remind you, by the way, even on like what Soad said, I wanted to actually two things about it. Like, notice she said, like, look, even I think it was forgive me if I'm wrong, but I think it was Soad. You said, hold on, like, even if the train is moving, she said, like, I know the train's moving because it's like a train and it's on its way down to 14th. But even if the train is moving, if like I'm sitting there in the train, then I am not moving. Like, the question was, are you moving or not? So even at least one of us in the room is saying, well, I mean, even if the train itself is going, that doesn't mean I am. And then others of you are all, again, I don't disagree with that. I mean, that seems logical to me. But then others of you are also saying, like, hang on, we don't even know if the train is moving. Like, that's not even clear. Like, it might be because it is a train and all of that. But like, I think, for example, I think like Lakshmi is saying, or I think it's like Lakshmi is saying, like, even if it is a train and even it's supposed to be moving, like, generally speaking, when trains move, there is some indication of that. And apparently, according to this piece of paper, there is no indication. So So again, like some people are like Soad saying, like, even if the train's moving, that doesn't mean I am. And other people are saying, dude, I don't even know if the train is moving. So like what, I mean, no. Anybody want to add or subtract to any, I mean, again, this is not, I do think everybody's saying something valid. I would not, oh, I'm letting somebody in. I promise, and I do think the discussion is meant to be open-ended, but I promise you there is a purpose. Like it's not just, it's not just like, it's not group therapy. I mean, it's not just like, how do we all feel about trains? I am trying to go somewhere with this, but I really do want to hear anybody or everybody on the, like at least one for example, did it? Oh, well, yeah, I have a next question, but is there anybody else who wants to add or subtract or respond in any way to anything anybody said or ask a question? You can ask a question if you want, like something you don't understand about the scenario, but is there anybody else who wants to add anything to what was said or subtract?
Yeah, I just wanted to add, I said there wasn't enough information. And I said that because when I was reading it, it didn't say anything about what you see outside the window, because I have been on a train before that has been so smooth and I'm closing my eyes because I'm kind of tired. And I opened them and it stopped and I just never noticed if it was actually stopped or if it was like going. So I feel like for me personally, I would know if it's in motion if I was looking outside the window and saw everything moving.
Okay, that's actually really helpful. Notice again, really helpful. Notice again that I think every single person who said something before has said something different. Like I don't think anybody's being redundant at all. Everybody's saying something different, yet I don't know that what anybody is saying is like in contradiction to anybody else. Like I don't hopefully no one's going to get into a fight here. What Noel is saying that I hear Noel saying is, first of all, I hear Noel saying that she actually can relate to this. Let's get that straight, right? Okay, which is cool. Like Noel is saying she's been in a situation before where she's really tired or whatever. Her eyes are closed. It's late at night, whatever the reason is. And actually, literally, for at least one moment, she doesn't have enough information to know whether she's actually moving or not, or that the train that she's in is actually moving. And then she looks, so she actually has I don't know if I'm moving or not. I don't have enough information. Then she looks out the window, at least in those real life scenarios. And then from looking at the window, she gets more information and then decides she's moving. So she's saying here, okay, folks, like we don't have enough information. Like he told us a bunch of stuff. I mean, Yaverbaum told us a bunch of stuff, but he didn't tell us anything about what's going on through the window. So there's not enough information. So if I did look through the window, then I could resolve it. Now, I mean, again, let me emphasize, I definitely would not be asking this whole thing if I didn't think there was some plausible reality to it. I too definitely can relate to this. Now, at least from Noel, there's a suggestion that if we could get more information, we could resolve this and maybe like more of us would be voting the same way. So let me just ask this. And that doesn't mean you agree with her. But if she's saying not enough information, what then ends up happening in the scenario is more information does come, right? At some point in the scenario, in the paper, you look out the window and then you do see stuff. In fact, I think like you see white lights are starting to move by. So let me just ask this question, whether this is to Noel and everybody. Did anybody ever, through the whole paper, did anybody ever change their vote? Like, because you're asked like over and over again, are you moving now? Are you moving now? Are you moving? So I want to see a show of electronic hands. And I don't care which direction you changed your vote in, but is there if at any point, anywhere in the whole train of thought assignment, you changed your vote either from yes to no or from no to yes or anything like that. If you change your vote at all, yeah, please put your hand up. Oh, that's 1, 2. So I see Daniela, I see Alyssa, I see Vivian, I see Jayla, I see, so 4 people. So now let me actually make sure. Okay, great. That's 4 people. Put your hand, or 5. Julian, awesome. So is it going once, going twice? Okay. Oh, analysts, no, 5. Yeah, okay. So now I'm going to make sure this is a fair, clean vote. Put your hands down. This is obnoxious on my part, or I'm going to make sure everybody's paying attention. I want to ask the opposite now. Raise your hand if you never changed your vote through the whole paper. like through whatever you said, okay, that's one. Okay, one, that's Charlie, also 3. Okay, so Farouk, 1, 2, 3. Awesome. And it looks like that totally is that I totally appreciate 1, 2, 3, 4. Wait, so 2 people did not vote? Wait. So the 2 choices, this is the one place where I'm being obnoxious. The 2 choices were you did change your vote or you didn't change your vote. And I feel like it has to be one or the other, right? I guess 2 people, I guess people didn't necessarily, I don't know for a fact that everybody did their homework. All right, so I'm not gonna, all right. So you can put your hands down. So wait, that's interesting. Now maybe some people didn't hear the question, or maybe some people didn't do their homework. I'm not trying to say, but we have a significant portion of the room is represented here. 5 people said they changed their vote at one point or another. 3 people said they didn't change their vote at all. Oh, and that's 2 more people said they didn't change their vote at all. So I want a discussion on that. I want to hear somebody who did change their vote ever. Can you explain like when you changed your vote or why? Like, because well, let me put it this way. I'm assuming that if you, maybe I'm wrong in assuming this, but I'm assuming that if you changed your vote ever at all, then it's kind of, then somewhere you're kind of agreeing with Noel, like somehow you were kind of thinking somewhere that information mattered. Like if you changed your vote, presumably it's because some kind of information came in that influenced you. You might have thought you had the right, well, anyway, so I want to hear about that. Like when did that happen and why? Anybody who did change their vote, tell me why or from what to what, or anybody who did change their vote.
I changed my vote because, like Noah was saying, like you would, I think I'm not sure if it was Noel or Daniela who said that you would hear it, and then also it said that none of your senses, like you didn't sense anything. And usually when you're on the train, no matter how smooth it is, it's pulling you, like it has force on your body. So obviously it has to put back the same amount of force. So you're obviously gonna move. And how wouldn't you sense that? That was like how I was thinking. I don't know if it makes sense.
No, that does make sense. Wait, so you're saying if you're moving, there's got to be some way. Most of it made sense. If you're moving, you've got to feel some kind of force or something on your body, and you're saying, wait. And so where does the change come in? Wait, say again. That part I got, but then I guess I did miss.
So like it's pulling against your body, so your body's gonna want to pull against the force. That's what I'm trying to say. Like whatever force that it pulls you by is gonna pull back with, you know.
Oh, very cool. Wait, I think I do get that. I do know it. So therefore, so how did that lead to you changing your vote though? That's the thing I don't.
Oh, because at first I said no and yes, but then I said there wasn't enough information because it said that I think it said something about you didn't see any, like none of the senses. So I said you would feel that. So it didn't make sense for you not to feel anything or see anything or hear anything if you're getting pulled by something.
Oh, I think I understand. So in a way, is this fair to say? So it's not that anything different happened in the scenario. It's that the more you read the scenario and like the farther you got into it and the more you thought about it, you changed, like you basically changed your mind, but not because is it okay. I think I get that. Okay, that makes sense. Anybody else at all who, and by the way,
Yeah, I changed.
Oh yeah, okay.
Okay, I changed it when it says that the lights are appearing. So when you say like in the window and you start seeing the lights, then I know like it's moving.
Oh, okay. Cool. And by the way, that's cool. And let me, I want to go back for a second. That's Daniela, who I want to say something about what Daniela just said. And also, and sorry, as I say, I'm a little scattered. Who was it that was just talking right before Daniela? Was that Jayla? Who was it that was, or was it?
Yeah, it was Jayla.
It was Jayla. Okay. So there was one thing that Jayla said that was very significant that that I should have highlighted and I didn't. One thing noticed about the Jayla thing, which she pointed out, like that somehow there's this like backwards thing that does happen in real life. Like I know what she's talking about. Something like if you're in a car or something like that, and all of a sudden you feel yourself thrown to the right, you know that it means the car was turning to the left. Like she was talking about that, like a force. I think this is what she means, like that somehow if there's a force going against you in one direction, you know somehow it means that there's motion going in the opposite. That's okay. Very cool point. We're going to deal a lot with that in this class. Honestly, it's going to come up in all these different fashions in this class. But first of all, let me just say, I totally do know what she's talking about. She's not crazy. That is a real thing, that if you feel something happening to you pushing to the right, somehow you know, or at least you sense, that the vehicle you're in is going to the left. That's a really good, and she's saying that here, that doesn't seem to be happening. Hence, no motion. Like I'm not feeling any force. I'm not feeling any interaction. I'm not feeling any influence. I'm not feeling any thrust. Hence, no motion. But then, okay, so that's Jayla, right? Then, now I'm going to get confused. I think it's Daniela is saying, I think it was Daniela, was saying, well, yeah, I basically thought something like that too. Like I was like, all right, there's no motion or there's not enough information to indicate motion. Like I'm not feeling forces. I'm not feeling a left or right bump or anything. But then, and again, tell me if I'm wrong, but I think it was Daniela. She's like, but wait, at some point, we did look out the window, which also brings us back now to Newell's thing. Like at some point, we did look out the window and we got more information through the window, like information that we didn't have before, because we didn't have bumps, lurches, we didn't have these forces. But then, and it's like real life, maybe, or at least like something that some of us can relate to. Then we looked out the window, just like I think Newell occasionally has in real life. We looked out the window and then we saw these white lights going past us, excuse me, in the window, like not just white lights sitting there, but white lights streaming by somehow. So then we went, oh, okay, even though this is a very smooth train and I'm not feeling any forces, I am getting visual information, visual data, and that visual data is moving in a direction. And now here's like the Jayla thing. I'm gathering, I believe what Danielle is saying is if she saw the white lights moving, say like to the south, then she's like, oh, now I get it. I must be moving to the north, right? Again, it's that backwards thing that Jayla was saying before. Like if you don't necessarily have to feel the rightward tug to go, oh, I'm moving to the left. If you see stuff moving to the right, then you're like, oh, I'm moving to the left, right? I think that's what we're saying. Very fair, totally fair, totally fair. So fair that I would just be like, oh yeah, duh, okay, end of discussion. Except not everybody said that. Like not everybody said, yes, I'm moving. Not everybody changed their votes when they saw the white lights. So presumably there is a little wiggle room here. In fact, I'm going to be very bluntly asked now, like regardless of what your vote was or whatever, is there anybody in the room that could make an argument? And we're all friends here. This is like not to disagree with Daniela. It's not to disagree with Newell or Jayla. But is there anybody in the room that could conceive of a situation where you see white lights moving to the south? Like if you look out the window and there's either one or a few things, white lights traveling in a certain direction. And can you conceive of any kind of explanation or scenario or possibility of why still it could be the case still that you're not moving? Like, is there any way, is there any devil's advocate you could play to say, even though I see, okay, yeah, Charlie, go. Or was that?
Yeah, it could be like if there's like a car moving or something and you're not moving, it could be like, and it's dark out, it could be like a car's like headlights moving or something like that.
Exactly. That's totally exactly what yes. And in this case, right. So he's saying, and again, this is not to say that anybody in the room is crazy or wrong. It's to say all of what I'm trying to show here again is there's something that's actually crazy about the scenario. It's not crazy about you guys or me, but there is something open-ended about this scenario to the point where if I'm on this train, right? And again, like it's kind of like real life. I'm kind of like Newell. I'm kind of tired. And as you can tell, I am. I'm like tired and my like wits are not totally about me. And it happens to be a fairly smooth ride. It's like the A train and there's not a lot of people or blah, 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 blah. And all the seats are like this and that. So then I like wake up from a little snooze or whatever. And I'm like, oh, wait, oh, damn, like, have we even left yet? Like, am I even on my way home or what's the deal here? And I'm like, I can't even tell. But, and then I look out the window. I could actually, like a reasonable person, be like, look out the window and I could see a bunch of white lights going by. And one part of my brain might say, oh, okay, stuff is going by, so I must be moving. But the other part of my brain, a totally rational part of my brain, could then realize what Charlie's saying, like, and since this is trains, and as opposed to being on the highway, my brain could say, wait, yeah, I see white lights going by, but that doesn't actually prove that I'm moving, because after all, those could be attached to something else that itself is moving. Like in Charlie's example, it could be other cars, or for that matter, if I'm underground, if this is a New York City train system, it could be another train, right? Like I actually could have awakened, see a bunch of white lights going by, and think for a minute, oh crap, or good, I am moving, but then realize, oh no, wait, I'm not. That's just another train going by. Like that is totally conceivable. Or if you don't like that, if you think that's too much of a stretch of the imagination, I don't know about you guys, but I have been in my life in the highway. Sometimes, like I've been in a car, whether I'm driving or I'm like a kid in the back seat or something like that. And if I awake from something, or like I'm in huge traffic, right? I don't know if you've ever had this scenario, but you could be in huge bumper to bumper traffic and you're sitting there and there's an enormous truck to your right, like an enormous like track that's like blocking your view of everything else. And all of a sudden, I mean, this has happened to me. The truck starts moving back. And I think for a second, oh my God, I left my foot off the brake. Like if I'm the driver, I think, oh my God, my foot just slipped off the brake. Oh my God, my car's slipping forward. And then I'm like, oh no, it was just a truck moving back. Or the reverse, right? Like I think the truck's moving back, it's all cool, but it turns out my car was moving. Like I'm just trying to say, what I'm trying to say right now, to what I'm trying to pick up on what Charlie said. Like if we go back at the beginning of the scenario, what's sort of clear listening to all the different opinions in the class is at the beginning, there can be some actual legitimate debate about whether we're moving or not, because at the beginning, one way or another, there's not a lot of information. Like some people literally are raising their hand at the beginning for not enough information. Like I think Newell was one of them. Others of us are not actually saying that, but then I think I'm getting people, I think it was Jayla who, although she didn't raise her hand for not enough information, she kind of said that later on in the scenario where she got more information, she changed her vote, or at least one person said that, which sort of implies, okay, at the beginning of the scenario, I'm kind of making my decision based on this absence of data. Like it's dark, I don't see anything, I don't feel anything, like a number, and also like who else, like Lakshmi was like a lot of people are talking like, okay, I don't feel the forces, Then you start getting more information. So then at least for some of us, our votes start getting influenced by the more information that we're getting, whether it's the visual clue of white lights outside the subway or whatever it is, right? So at first we maybe vote one way or we don't vote at all because of very little information. Then we start getting more information, whether we were looking for it or not. We start getting more information, and for some of us anyway, that influences our vote in one direction or another. But then what at least Charlie is saying, and again, I mean, I think all of us are saying this, what at least Charlie's like voicing is, well, even with that new information that you get, whether you were looking for new information or not, whether you think the new information is helpful or not, the fact is, even that new information could be interpreted more than one way. They could definitely, which is why people keep voting different ways. Even as we get the white lights, and I think then more happens in this scenario, we get other things too, right? Like we either get colored lights or we get like a rubber ball on the train. We get more and more information as it's going, and it might influence our vote, but it doesn't necessarily resolve our vote, because even the information itself leaves up something for grabs. I'm just looking at the time. And again, so far, what I think is there's something about this that is actually legitimately confusing. I can't guarantee you that it's interesting, like maybe you find it stupid, but it is legitimately debatable. And I again want to just agree with at least Newell and other people that it's legitimately debatable, and not just because it's hypothetical. Like, in fact, I'm going to say this now. do me a favor, raise your electronic hand or somehow indicate if you've ever been in a scenario ever in life where even for one moment you were legitimately confused about whether you were moving or not. Has anybody ever been in this scenario? Well, that's a lot. Oh, that was fast. Wow. 1, 2, 3. Oh, wow. A lot of people. Awesome. Okay. Awesome. So at least 4 people are saying they've, okay. Now, presumably you got, that's cool. Presumably you got through that moment one way or another. And presumably you got through that moment with more information. But I don't know how long it took you, and I don't know what type of information it was. What's my next question? Okay, hold on, let me just think for a second. Is there anybody in the room? Okay, so since it's 11:40, okay, and I'm telling you that there is a purpose to this, right? Like it's not just a fanciful exercise. I keep saying that there's something realistic about this, right? And at least 4 of you have said that in your actual life, you've experienced something realistic about this. Let's back up now. And I want to ask, is there anybody here who can think of any time in history where, in the history of civilization, where not just one person, but where a bunch of people might have been legitimately confused for any period of time as to whether they were moving or not? Like, does this scenario remind you of anything, not just in New York City, not just in your personal life, but in any, is there any larger example of this that actually ever made it to a textbook or a history book or anything that you can think of, or that this reminds you of? I'm looking at the chat, I'm seeing chat. Yes, exactly. Awesome, Charlie. Like, totally, exactly. Let me say that not only do I feel like this moment has happened to me in my personal life, like here and there, whether it's on an elevator or in an airplane, but in fact, this confusion as to whether we're moving or not legitimately happened, and you all know it, legitimately happened in history and lasted in history for a long period of time and took an enormous amount of outside information to start changing people's votes and changing people's interpretation. And I want to argue to you that even to this day, the resolution of that historical problem is not nearly as clear as we might think, or we might have learned in 3rd grade or whatever. What I'm getting at is this train, the train of thought, is an analogy to planet Earth. Right? The fact of the matter is, and you all know this in one way or another, but let's get it straight. The fact of the matter is, for hundreds and hundreds, in fact, thousands of years, there was legitimate confusion as to whether or not the ground that we're all standing on every day is, in fact, a ground that is firm and stable. Like, we stand around on this floor every day of our lives. We stand on the floor of this thing that we now call a planet every day of our lives. And for most of our daily lives, we act as though the floor is just sitting still and that things in the sky are moving past us. And as you may have heard, for hundreds and thousands of years, the way astronomy was studied, and it was in great detail and with great accuracy, the way the phases of the moon and the orbits of the other planets and the rising and the setting of the sun and the paths of all the constellations, the way all of that was studied and recorded and predicted accurately for thousands of years, all assumed that the ground we were standing on was as firm as it felt. And then at some point in history, the question started getting raised in a sort of bigger and bigger way. The question started getting raised as to, hang on a second, are the white lights in the sky, i.e. the stars, are those stars that keep moving past us every single night? And is that sun that keeps moving past us every day, and that moon that keeps moving past us every night, all those things that keep moving past us from east to west every day, are they actually moving past us, or are we actually moving past them? And at some point, more and more evidence or thought started getting devoted in the direction of saying, I think actually we are moving past all of that. I think more and more people started saying, I think we're on a train or in a ship or in a mothership or whatever. I think we are standing on a ground that, although it feels totally stable in every way, is in fact moving through the universe, through outer space, past the sun, specifically past the sun, past all the other stars, that even though it looks to us and feels to us that everything is moving past us, we started saying with more and more conviction at a certain point in history that we were moving past all of that. And we eventually said it with such conviction that by the time you guys got to third grade, or by the time I got to third grade, you may or may not recall this, we all learned in third grade or fifth grade or second grade or whatever. We all, if your education was anything like mine, you were taught at some point in your early science education career that the way the world works is there's a sun, and then there's a bunch of planets going around the sun, and that we go around the sun all the time. And we made solar system projects in third grade. I don't know about you, but I did. And I even remember with my dad and my mom, getting a watermelon and calling it the sun, and getting a grapefruit and calling it the earth, and making this project where the grapefruit went around the watermelon, around and around. And we even learned, I don't know about you, but I even learned that for thousands of years, people had the silly idea that we were just sitting still and watching the whole sky as it went past us. But thank God, eventually, Galileo, and don't get me wrong, I am mocking something, but I am not mocking Galileo. I love Galileo. He's totally my hero. But here's the way I learned, and I'm also not mocking you guys or your education. I don't know how you learned it, but I learned something along the following, that for thousands of years, people had this really primitive, dumb idea that we were just sitting in the center of the universe and everything was going around us. And the church said that, the big bad church thought that we were the center of the universe. But then Galileo, the scientist who had the courage to follow the conviction of his own thoughts and the courage to follow the evidence of his own senses, he said, no, church, that's not true. I'm a scientist. And as a scientist, I say we're moving through the world. And the church said, no, we are authority. We are power. We say we're at the center and we're not listening to your evidence and your logical thought. And Galileo, the hero, said, yes, I am logical and I'm looking at my senses and I'm starting this whole new thing called science, where we don't just accept blind authority, we actually listen to senses and to logic. And we say that the earth is moving through the universe past the sun. And eventually we all learned the heroic correctness of the scientist Galileo. And thank God thank goodness he had the courage to fight against the big bad. And I'm not actually, I hope I'm not offending Danielle. Wait, I hope I'm not. This is, okay, this is the way I learned it. I don't think any of this is true, but this is the way I learned that he's a hero because he didn't just accept blind authority blindly or blind dogma blindly. He actually listened to his own senses and to his logic and realized the correct truth that the earth was actually moving through the universe, that the sun is not going around the earth is going past the sun. Or put another way, what Galileo actually realized was the white lights are not going past the train is going past the white lights. And so then we all made these solar system projects in third grade that had the correct science, which said that the earth was moving through the universe. But here's my point to everybody. The reason I'm mocking all of this, I'm not necessarily saying that anybody is specifically wrong, but I'm saying, wait a second. When I learned in third grade that Galileo was a hero for coming to the truth, supposedly he was a hero because he rejected blind authority and he actually listened to what his senses said and what his logic said. So what I'm here to tell you all right now is, hang on. If I look at what my senses say, they do not in any way tell me on any daily basis in any aspect of my real life that I'm moving through the universe, that the ground underneath my feet is hurtling past the sun at speeds, and wait till I tell you what the speeds are, like at high speeds. Like I don't feel it in my feet. I don't see it. I don't see any evidence at all that the ground that I'm standing on is perpetually moving through the universe or past the sun or past the stars or anything like that. I do definitely see sun rising and sunset. I see stars moving across the sky. But again, kind of like Charlie pointed out before, and other people are implying, like that tells me that there's motion. That doesn't necessarily tell me that there's motion of me. Logically, if I'm going to listen to logic now, logically, I don't see a logical reason to assume that I'm moving, especially if I probe those science teachers who in third grade told me to make a solar system project and told me to understand that the earth is going past the sun. I don't know about you guys, but what I might have thought in my mind is, okay, I guess, okay, I'm moving, but since I don't feel it all the time, I guess maybe I'm moving so slow that I don't feel it. Is that the deal? Is that the words they're saying, that there's an earth that we're moving through the universe, but we're kind of like just plodding along and it's like so smooth and so minchy that's why I don't feel it? Well, I got to tell you, if I had thought that, or if I'd asked my science teachers, how fast is the earth moving past the sun? You know, the answer, and you can look this up on the web right now if you feel like it, if you believe in this solar system model that we all now have, according to it, we're moving past the sun at 65,000 miles per hour all the time. Let me say that again. According to the modern solar system picture that we all get at the American Museum of Natural History or on TV or in Nova or with what's his name? I forget his name. But like, according to modern or contemporary science, according to my third grade teachers or your college professors, the earth, the ground that you're standing on is perpetually moving past the sun at speeds upwards of 65,000 miles per hour. Let me put that in perspective. The speed of sound is only like 1,000 miles per hour. The speed of an airplane is usually under 1,000 miles per hour. Some airplanes go fast in the speed of sound, like military thing and the Concorde, but I've never been on one. I don't know about you, but even if you've been on an airplane that goes fast in the speed of sound, that's like about 1,100 miles per hour. Rocket ships, in order to go to the moon, in order to achieve escape velocity and literally get to the moon, if you believe that happened, and I do, those rocket ships go 45,000 miles an hour. We're saying that the earth is not just sometimes, but always going past the sun at 65,000 miles an hour. Now, here's my point. I'm not saying that's wrong. I am not saying that's wrong, but I'm saying this. If I believe in that solar system project that I made out of fruits when I was in third grade, if I believe that I'm standing on a ground that is perpetually moving at 65,000 miles per hour all the time, then I'm not believing it because my senses are telling me that. And I'm not believing it because there's anything obviously logical about that. I mean, there might be, but there's no logic in my mind that tells me that. I'm believing in it because my third grade teacher told me that. I'm believing in it because I was told a story about the triumph of science over blind church dogma. And frankly, as far as I'm concerned, all I'm doing is accepting the blind dogma of my third grade science teacher, because for some reason he or she told me that science is more rational and more sense-based than whatever the church was saying in the 16th century. And I think that is a total contradiction. Like, and again, I'm not trying to like rock any, well, I am a little bit trying to rock your world. I'm not trying to upset anybody or offend anybody. I'm certainly not trying to say anything offensive about the church or about my science teacher, but I'm saying this: we are, as scientists, supposed to believe our senses, and we are supposed to believe the faculty of our mental reasoning. We are supposed to not accept things just because someone tells us. We're supposed to experimentally test things and make sure that they make sense to us. Frankly, I don't see anything immediately sensible or sensory about believing that the Earth is moving through space past the sun all the time at 65,000 miles an hour, which apparently is what science says. What I'm saying is the train of thought scenario, the hypothetical scenario of the train of thought is actually a direct analogy to the actual question of the Earth. And this is what Charlie said and other people said. It's a direct, when I asked the question at the beginning, have we ever experienced this at all, like even slightly? And most of you said yes, which is great. Like even for a moment, you've been confused about whether you're moving or not. I'm going to say now, we all experience that confusion all the time, every single day, because every single day we are standing on a floor that seems totally stable and doesn't seem to, give any motion to us at all. And when I walk from one side of the room to the other, I don't worry about slamming into like one wall or the other. Or if I'm walking across the room and I jump up, I don't worry about like a wall slamming towards my butt and like hitting me in the butt or something like that, right? I act on the Earth the same way I act in an airplane, right? In a normal airplane, if you get on and if anybody's been on an airplane, you get on an airplane, and once it takes off, and once the captain says it's safe to unbuckle your seatbelt, or like we've achieved cruising velocities, the captain has said it is now safe to unbuckle your seatbelt and move freely about the cabin, right? And they're not kidding, right? Like once the plane has taken off and is cruising, you totally can get up, walk around. You can jump up and not be afraid that the back of the plane is going to slam you in the butt. Someone can say, pass the peanuts, and you just go like this. You don't go like, here you go, here you go, here you go, right? And you sit in your seat and you like turn on a movie in your chair, and then you complain that it's a bad movie, and you just like act like you're in your own apartment or in your own hotel room, just sitting there like worrying about things, about whether you got your tomato juice or not, or whether the movie's on. And meanwhile, supposedly that airplane is like 5,000 feet above the air, hurtling past the ground at 500 miles an hour. And you don't worry about it at all. You just act like la-di-da-di-da. I'm just sitting around. And yet in the back of your mind, you're totally confident, like, yet the plane is moving. Like in no way do I feel it. In no way do I care. In no way do I have to incorporate it into my mind. But I think the plane is moving at 500 miles an hour. In fact, when I get to China or wherever I'm going, I don't actually think they brought China to me. I feel like I got to China, even though the entire experience is as though someone just brought China to you, right? And then somehow we transpose all this. And when we're walking around planet Earth all the time, part of our brain is like, here I am, I'm stable, I'm not moving, everything's fine. But part of our brain has somehow accepted the idea of, oh, of course, while all this is going on, according to my third grade teacher, I'm moving at 65,000 miles an hour past the sun, and I'm not worried about it at all. I don't feel like it's dangerous. I don't feel like it's a contradiction. I'm totally not moving. I'm totally stable. But I'm totally moving because my teacher told me so. And I'm moving at 65,000 miles an hour because I can look it up on Google, and that's what it says. By the way, you can also look up on Google, if you believe that you're going past the sun at 65,000 miles an hour, if you look up what's the sun doing, like you might even say, and this is also what I thought in third grade, like, okay, this is weird. This is kind of a head trip. I guess I'm not moving, but I am. Okay, like I guess they used to think that the sun was sitting at the center of the universe while everything moved past it. I guess they were dumb for thinking that, apparently, even though it seems totally reasonable, and even though that's totally what the universe feels like, and even though all those ancient astronomers were able to totally understand the phases of the moon, all the motion of the constellations, predict eclipses, predict supernovas and comets, do all that with total accuracy. Let me point that out also. All the ancient Greek astronomers, the ancient Roman astronomers, the ancient Hebrew, Egyptian, Chinese, all the ancient astronomers, their predictions were wildly accurate, like super accurate. Like we use them to this day. Whatever we understand about the zodiac constellations, like you were born under the sign of Libra, blah, blah, and Libra is going to be over here by October, all of that we get from the ancient astronomers. All of them were making all those predictions, assuming that the Earth was sitting still at the center of the universe. Then in the 1600s, we come along and start saying, oh, no. We're hurtling through the solar system. We're going past the sun at 65,000 miles an hour. Number one, doesn't change any of those predictions, doesn't change any of that information. Like really, it doesn't. Like we still accept all of their numbers, even though we flip the whole universe and say, oh my God, you guys were so wrong. You're so naive. We are so advanced. We actually understand that we're going boom like this, yet somehow that doesn't seem to change any of the findings. Furthermore, we say, in case you're curious, we say, we're going around the sun now. And so you might say, oh, yes, okay, so the sun is the center of the universe. I get it. They were so silly. They thought we were the center, but actually the sun is the center. Oh, no. In the 20th century, we don't say that either. We say we're going past the sun, but the sun is just one of a billion stars. And each one of them is just a star. And each one of them is going around the center of our whole galaxy, the Milky Way galaxy. And there's something called the Galactic Center you can look this up. And according to this whole reasoning, our sun, one of a billion, goes around the Galactic Center, the Milky Way galaxy, at speeds of upwards of 650,000 miles an hour, like more than 500,000 miles per hour all the time. Our sun is doing that. While we go past that at 65,000 miles an hour all the time, according to modern science. And we stand on this rock going through space all the time. And we're just like, la di da di da. We're not moving, blah, blah, blah. And we're like, oh, those dumb ancients for thinking that we weren't moving. Like they are so naive. How could they? And the church, oh God, how ignorant to think that we were not moving. But meanwhile, I'm just sitting here like, can I have an apple? Thanks. Like it's very weird. We think we're so smart for saying, oh, I don't know what we think. But apparently we're such badass scientists for being able to realize that we're moving all the time at these high speeds, yet that motion seems to have no impact on our senses and seems to fly in the face of all logic. But we're the smart. What am I trying to say? I only have 5 minutes. Well, I'm trying to say this. Okay, I'm gonna wait. You follow? Well, I don't know if you follow me or not because I'm kind of ranting. But I'll tell you, I'm going to take out the board. We have 5 minutes. I'm going to tell you what I'm trying to say, what the conclusion of all this is. Bear with me for a second. Okay, we've got 4 minutes. What I'm going to give you now, what we actually learned from Galileo in the 17th century, what I thought we had learned, what I mistakenly misunderstood from my third grade science teachers. And I'm just using them arbitrarily. Like I'm not really trying to insult any of my particular teachers, but what I thought they were telling me in third grade is that we used to think that the earth was sitting still at the center of the universe and the sun was going around it. And then we learned that the earth is actually moving. That's not quite really what we learned from Galileo. Here's what we learned from Galileo. We learned that the laws of physics, whatever they are, whatever they're going to be. Now, Galileo is kind of one of the founders of physics. So he's referring to the laws that are going to be discovered, the laws that he's about to discover, the laws that his predecessors are about to discover, whatever the laws of motion are. Galileo says, whatever they are, they're the same at all constant velocities. Whether you're going 100 miles an hour or you're going 1,000 miles an hour, the laws of physics apply the same to you either way. Don't even know. So I don't even know what they all are. But let's say, for example, gravity. If gravity means that things are always falling down in a straight line, then if things are falling down in a straight line always when you're sitting still at 0 miles per hour, then they're going to fall down in a straight line even if you're going 100 miles an hour. Whatever the laws are, they are laws. They don't change from case to case. So the laws of motion don't change from one motion to another. If they did, they wouldn't be laws, right? That's the first thing he says. I know we have 2 more minutes. I'm just going to write the 2 things. We'll explain this more on Monday. But he says the laws are the same no matter what. Then he says, and tell me if you have to, I know we have 2 minutes. But then he says, oh, 2. We have 1 minute left. Form number 2 says, and it just comes directly from form number 1, says, since the laws are the same at all velocities, you cannot ever do or even think up an experiment that would allow you to measure the absolute velocity of one single object that's moving through space. Like you, because whatever its velocity is, the laws would be the same. Like no matter what velocity you're going, the laws are the same. So for example, really quickly, I know it's 12:05, I'm going to stop in 1 second, but if you were on the train, in train of thought, or you're on planet Earth, or you're in an airplane or whatever, and you're like, many of you in the class, you're like, wait, I'm not sure if I'm moving or not. Like for 1 minute, you're like, I'm not sure if I'm moving or not. And you even like look outside and you're like, you see white lights going past and you're like, oh, okay, there's motion. But then you're like, wait, are they moving past me and I'm actually sitting still? Or are they actually sitting still and I'm actually moving past them? If you want to know what's actually happening to your one vessel, there's not a single experiment you could do to find out, because any experiment you would do would work out the same way no matter whether you were moving or not. Like you could drop something and be like, well, if I were just sitting still and I dropped something, it would land right directly below where I dropped it. It would land on my feet if I were just sitting still. So let me drop something and see what happens. But if you weren't sitting still, if you were going 100 miles an hour or 300 miles an hour, the laws of physics are still the same. So the thing would still just land directly at your feet. No matter what speed you were going, actually, the laws would be the same, and therefore the experiment would work out to the same result. So what Galileo very profoundly says, he's not saying the Earth is moving, nor is he saying the Earth is not moving. He's saying, you know what? There's no experiment we could ever do to find out whether the Earth is actually moving or not. Galileo is the beginning. This is my last, I'm not going to write anything more. I'm not going to write anything more, but Galileo is the father of experimental science, experimental physics. He starts believing that what we should believe in as scientists is whatever we can find out in experiments. And he says, but you know, we got a problem here. If we're trying to find out whether we're actually moving or not, guess what? There's no experiment we could ever do. And it's not because technology is limited. It's because any experiment we would do to find out whether we were actually moving or not, we would test something and see what would happen. But what would happen would be the same whether we were moving or not, because the laws of physics have to be the same at all velocities. So what Galileo says is you cannot experimentally determine whether you are actually moving as a single object through space or not. I'm just going to leave it there. And right, so he's not saying the Earth is moving. He's not saying the Earth is not moving. He's saying it's experimentally unknowable. That's a big deal. That's called relativity. That's called the relativity of velocities. And it comes from Galileo and it permeates all the way through Einstein. So, but we'll stop there. I know I went 2 minutes over and I also started in 2 minutes. So you guys were great to discuss that. Thank you for your patience. Sorry. Have a good weekend. Thank you. Yes. Have a good day. Have a great, yes. Thank you. Have a good weekend. Okay. Bye. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Awesome. Thank you.